Hello again, students. It's your teacher, Mr. Dawson, and today we're going to be reading another story from the Marvel Storybook Collection. Today we are going to be reading another Spider-Man story because he was my favorite hero when I was a child. We're going to be reading the story Shock and Awe, featuring Spider-Gwen and Peter Parker. Peter Parker, the superhero known as Spider-Man, sat down on the rooftop's ledge after a night of fighting baddies. He let out a long sigh. "Okay," said Gwen, Peter's friend, and the superhero partner, also known as Spider-Gwen, or as people would say Ghost Spider, because they don't want to know who she is. "Spell it. What's wrong?" "Huh?" Peter's like, confused. "Oh, sorry, I was just tired. I haven't slept." He rubbed his forehead. "There have been these robberies, and I can't figure out who's doing them." "Well, talk to me," Gwen said. "Maybe you just need fresh sort of eyes and ears." "Every night a couple of technology targets are hit," Peter said. "Car shops, tech startups, places like that. Every location, the security systems are shorted out. They're completely fine. I figured it was Electro, but I checked, he's behind bars." Peter looked defeated. So if it's not Electro, who could it be? He wondered out loud. An empty storefront in Good's neighborhood fit the bill perfectly. A freshly painted banner in the fog in front window, they disguised the storefront as an up-and-closing electronics shop. Peter passed out flyers, and Gwen posted all of the top social media sites and tech blogs. Their web had been spun. Now it was just a matter of time, waiting for the sun to go down. Everything in place, Spider-Man and Spider-Gwen perched on the rooftop of their fake store. They waited in silence, hoping to spot anything unusual. Spider-Man was having trouble keeping his eyes open, but suddenly his spider sense jolted him awake. He scanned the street below and saw a tiny strip of water making its way toward the building as if the water was alive. The water slid underneath the store's metal shutter. Then it moved a few feet into the dark room, then lifted itself into the air, but surely it took the shape of a person. There stood villain Spider-Man suspected had been ransacking Ghost Spider's neighborhood. Hydro Man. Meanwhile, Spider-Gwen spotted a shadowy figure approaching the back of the building. She ducked down low, keeping her gaze on the mysterious stranger. Electricity shot through the fingers and hands of the automatic lock on the back door. Gwen smiled beneath her mask. "I knew it." Gaze met Spider-Man's, and with a nod they took action. Inside the store, the shadowy figure's hands began to glow. Spider-Man had been right. Electro was behind the rash of recent tech robberies. Just not the Electro he thought. In the darkness, there is the newly electrically powered villain to plague New York City, Francine Fry. First thing Electro noticed that this store wasn't much of a store at all. Second thing she noticed was a dark figure standing at the opposite end of the large room. "It's a trap," Electro thought. She immediately disengaged her electric charge. Now more than ever, she would need to stick to the shadows. Across the store, Hydro Man saw a sparkle out of the corner of his eye. He strained to see in the darkness. He could only make out a dark shadow standing by the back door. Someone was waiting for him. Hydro Man clenched his fist. He was not one to give up without a fight. Two villains bided their time. Then, nearly at the same moment, Hydro Man lashed out with a blast of water while Electro shot a triangle of electricity from her hands. Lightning met water in a tremendous explosion. Sparks, smoke, and steam filled the room. Spider-Gwen took advantage of the chaos and leapt forward toward Electro, keeping her from causing further damage and mayhem. Hydro-Man staggered backward after he had received such a shock to his system. He couldn't even think about turning into water at that moment. It was all he could do to try to keep his balance. Just then, Spider-Man leapt from the shadows. So, this is what happens when you don't pay your water bill. He choked as he shot a web down toward his opponent. Spider-Man hit the floor with a thud. He was down for the count. KO. Later, back on the rooftop, the heroes watched as shield agents carted away the two villains. What did I tell you? Gwen said happily. Fresh perspective was all either of us needed. Now you can go back home and finally get some rest. But Peter didn't answer. He'd fallen asleep 10 minutes ago. Pretty tired. Well, I hope you enjoyed another Spider-Man story. I know I did, despite of how short it was. Anyway, remember, I'm your teacher, Mr. Donaldson, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.